Hello and welcome to the Columbus Metropolitan Club. I'm Doug Buchanan, a member of the CMC's Board of Trustees, and in my day job, I'm Editor-in-Chief of Columbus Business First. It's great to see everybody here and in person and virtually. We are live streamed today thanks to our live stream partners, the Columbus Dispatch and PNC. We'd also like to thank those of you watching today who purchased a virtual seat. We are very grateful for the support, and we are able to continue live streaming services in large part because of you. So thank you very much. How about some applause for that? Okay, on to today's program. A pivot means fundamentally changing the direction of a business when products or services do not match the market. In the face of a pandemic, the goal of a pivot is to set a new course, meet new challenges head on, and serve customers in new ways and thrive and survive. How you pivot your business can make all the difference. CMC today welcomes a group of panelists who have lived out their pivot with a new purpose. Please help me welcome our speakers. VP of External Affairs, Strategic Initiatives and Business Development and in-house counsel at COSI, Stephen White. Stephen. Founder and CEO of AntFlow, Claire Coder. And COO of the Columbus Regional Airport Authority, Casey Denny. And our host, Market President and Publisher of Columbus Business First, Nick Fortini. You can give him applause too. And Nick, the podium is yours.
Thank you, Doug. Well, some of the words that we've heard and grown accustomed to are words like unprecedented, new normal, you're muted, and of course, pivot. So in March, here in town, the Arnold Sports Festival Expo was canceled, and that turned out to be the event that marked the beginning of everyone's pivot. So I'm going to start with you, Claire. You weren't here in Columbus full-time when this happened. So before we get into your pivot, why don't you just give us a little perspective on your business, AntFlow, where you came from and how you got to where you are right now.
So I'm Claire, founder and CEO of AntFlow. I started my company after getting my period at Cover My Meds, and I didn't have a tampon or pad with me. This was 5 years ago. Of course, at the time, Cover My Meds was offering free lunch and a variety of additional amenities, but you had to find a quarter to use the tampon and pad dispenser to get the products that are a necessity. And I thought, man, if toilet paper is offered in bathrooms, why aren't tampons and pads? And can we create a sustainable solution for the environment, for the business, and for the end user in ensuring everybody has access to these products? So at the time I was studying at Ohio State, I left the university, full-sended into talking about menstruation, and here we are today, almost 5 years later. We've designed and developed a tampon and pad dispenser, specifically so businesses and schools can offer free tampons and pads in their bathrooms. We're in hundreds of businesses and schools across the United States now, including Cover My Meds. We're starting to work with COSI, Huntington, and then of course Google North America, Apple Retail, Princeton, middle schools, high schools. We've passed legislation in 5 states requiring schools to offer tampons and pads in their bathrooms, and all of this is amazing. And we are a company, and we are making money off of people using our tampons and pads. And so obviously when everybody went away from the bathrooms, that was a little problematic for us. And just to be clear, menstruation doesn't stop for a pandemic, but it did stop for us because we sell to businesses rather than directly to consumers. So in March, I was spending some time in New York to continue to develop the business, and our company is headquartered right here in Columbus, Ohio. And I quickly realized our world is changing, and we saw a dramatic churn for the customers that we were supporting, massive decrease in the consumption of menstrual products because nobody was in their schools or their businesses. So I had to think about what we were going to do. And like most entrepreneurs and folks that really don't want to have to tell people that they're furloughed, we adjusted to the situation. And that's what I'm excited to share about today.
Okay, why don't you keep going? Tell us what went through your mind when it suddenly dawned on you that everyone's going to be leaving commercial spaces and working from home. What went through your mind, and how did that process start?
Well, the first bummer was we had just closed a contract with Twitter, and they were one of the first, large enterprises that are like, work from home forever. And we're like, we spent a year closing that deal. But I think like most entrepreneurs, the ones that have started from very little, our job is to solve problems. Like, we start companies to solve problems that are intimate to us. I started the company because I got my period and I didn't have a tampon. It was very intimate. And I, all of the standard company goals of growth metrics, all of those went out the window. And the new company goal was, don't furlough anyone. Position the company to ensure that we were in a position to keep everybody employed. We had been thinking about our customers and what they needed. They were talking to us. We have really great relationships with our facilities managers across the United States and Canada, so I spent a lot of time on the phone with them and saying, like, I know you're really busy, but also I need to have a conversation with you and listen to my customers. And they told me, Claire, we can't find masks. Claire, we can't find wipes. Claire, like, we don't know when we're going to come back to office, but our employees who are now at home need support there as well. And so we leaned into what we knew best, which was rapidly developing high-quality products. We're a Class 2 medical device manufacturer. We manufacture tampons, Class 2 medical devices, and we've been importing FDA-approved products, pads, for the past 4.5 years. And so we leaned into what we knew, which was facilities and medical devices, and in a matter of literally 2 days, I didn't sleep for 48 hours, we retooled our pad production to make FDA-approved 3-ply masks. And this was at the end of February. So back in the day when, man, you remember when these were like really hard to come by? That was when we started repositioning the company, and we added a whole new brand. We have Flow, and then we added Workflow, Flow. And I've been really thankful that not only did it support our company in keeping all of our core team members, but it also allowed us to hire. And so really, really thankful that everybody just focused on the mission, which was to support our customers and lean into our core area, which is changing the world one cycle at a time. That's what happened for us.
Terrific. Well, we're going to get back to that. Casey, if you wouldn't mind, give us a little bit about your background.
Sure. So Casey Denny, I'm the Chief Operations Officer for the Columbus Regional Airport Authority, and we're blessed here in Columbus to operate 3 airports. Most are familiar with John Glenn, main passenger airport. We have Rickenbacker, primarily cargo, and Bolton Field, which handles our general aviation traffic. So we have 3 different environments that we have the pandemic occurring, and kind of different scenarios unveiling at both. For us, we're an essential service entity, right? Transportation infrastructure during any emergency, but certainly during a pandemic, has to keep running. And so our mission, connecting Ohio to the world, it seems to come right up against a pandemic, where these connections are the items that are suspect that might be causing the spread. The good part within our industry, pandemic planning to us, certainly not commonplace, but we approached the pandemic, we had already been planning, right? So we had heard the news reports like everybody else did at the end of 2019 that this could become a possibility. We have a pandemic plan. We started looking at it at that time, brushing it off. The very first case that appeared in the United States, so I'm going to go back to, that's January 20th. January 21st, right around that time. The very next day, we're in touch with Franklin County Emergency Management. And so we're coordinating already at that time how these plans come together, because we recognize we have to connect the world. There are medical providers that need to move from community to community. There are supplies, critical supplies, masks, other items that have to move. Our daily living supplies have to move. The transportation network can't shut down. So our mode went into, how do we do this safely? And so we're fortunate. Joe Nardoni joined our team back in 2018. A great leader, very decisive, and he really helps out with clear direction for us. And he told us early on, I won't forget it, it's health and safety first, business second.
And the traffic went from, peak to nothing, right,
Yeah,
in
so
April.
Absolutely. 2019 is our highest passenger traffic ever. We're at nearly 9 million passengers are going through. And in the course of just a few weeks, we saw less than 1,000 passengers go through our terminal. So it did bring it home what the impact is to us and the thoughts of, well, what do we do next? What's next? How do we get through this? But the clarity of health and safety first, business second, helped all of us kind of understand what our role would be and what we would need to do next. Because it's under those times, and you guys probably have the same with your teams. I'd love to hear more about the teams. It's bringing the team together, all working towards that common mission. And so what are we concerned about? When traffic goes down and revenue goes down, our jobs, what's happening with our livelihoods, what's happening with us personally. And we're no different. It's happening with our teams. But the focus on health and safety first, business second. The business will come back. That'll come back. But we need to make sure that we're protecting each other, our workforce, number one, that our workforce is there to protect the passengers that are going through all of our facilities. And that means that we have to do something differently. So it very quickly, the new normal wasn't something we could dwell on, wasn't something we could debate about, wasn't something we could have an industry conference about. It required action right at that time, and that focused on health and safety allowed us to just move right into it.
Yep.
Right into it.
And Stephen, speaking of going from 100 miles an hour to zero in virtually a month, talk about the conversations that you were having at COSI when this all started, because 75% of your operating budget is earned revenue, which is people buying access to your facility and your programming, right?
Right. It was an interesting time for sure in March, and as many of you may recall, we were beginning of March was a really amazing moment for COSI. We're the center of science and industry. We are a statewide science center that impacts over 1 million people a year. And our vision and mission is to engage, inspire, and transform lives and communities by being the best partner in science, technology, and industry learning. And we do that in a number of different ways. We do, over 700,000 people are coming to our physical building, which, by the way, is 3 football fields long, just in case anyone was ever curious. But the remainder is off-site engagement, where we do various different educational programs, like our famous COSI on Wheels program that's been around for many, many years, where we actually go out to a school and visit a school and take over the gymnasium for the day and educate youth around topics like chemistry and science and technology and so on and so forth. And the reason March was kind of a high note for us is because the community, including many in this room and who are watching online right now, helped to vote COSI as the #1 science center in the nation. And that was something that we were very proud of and excited about, because it was a moment that really enabled us to be able to say, okay, this vision and mission of being able to engage the community in an impactful way around education, we're going to double down on that, and we're going to do even more as a result of that tremendous designation. And then obviously the pandemic hit shortly, weeks following that designation, and because of the many different orders that were coming in, and obviously putting safety first, we had to close our doors. And to your point, revenue is a significant part of our budget. And so our physical doors closed, and we kind of got together shortly thereafter as a team and said, yes, we're going to have to make some very difficult decisions. But about 1.5 years ago, almost 2 years ago, we had worked on a strategic plan for COSI. COSI's been around for over 50 years. And we said we want to take that tremendous, amazing work that standing on the shoulders of giants and under the leadership of our CEO, Dr. Frederick Bertley, is how do we take that to the next level and impact even more people? And so we developed the strategic plan called COSI 5.0. to basically shape the future. And so when the pandemic hit, we looked at that strategic plan and we said, yes, we're going to have to pivot, but let's understand what those organizational goals are, like delivering education to the community. And how do we serve that as an essential human service? Learning doesn't stop in the middle of a pandemic. And so we said, we're gonna be there as a community partner, and we're gonna deliver learning when candidly, when it's needed the most in the middle of a pandemic, particularly for those individuals that were at risk of getting left behind,
Right.
Those underserved youth.
And I wonder if the conversation was had or is underway about, you're a science education facility. How is this a teaching moment, this period that we're going through, this pandemic?
That's right. So folks look at COSI. We're a science center, and we use science as our guiding post, so we use health as our guiding post. So one of the things we looked at is we said, even though our physical doors are closed, our community doors are wide open. And we're going to serve in a variety of different ways. We stand ready to serve, and we still do. In fact, our doors are actually still closed. We're looking forward to opening on November 20th, by the way, which we're really excited about. But we have to put safety first, and we have to put science first. And so one of the things we did is we have a number of principles that we embrace at COSI. One is ignore the box. Think differently. Think differently, especially in the middle of a pandemic where it is unprecedented. And so we ignored the box, and we said, okay, we have an education advisory stakeholder list of over 20,000 educators across our state. Teachers and families were looking to us to say, can you support us in this environment where folks are working at home? And then, oh, by the way, there were study after study coming out, including one powerful study from McKinsey that came out in April, saying that the closures for schools across the globe were going to be very, very challenging for families, because now you're put in this environment where perhaps you're juggling work, but you're also trying to educate your child at the same time. So we wanted to be a resource. We wanted to be that community resources. Again, our community doors were wide open. So we developed a digital doorway, that we call COSI Connects, which actually is available today for anybody for free. If you go to COSI.org and check it out, where COSI delivers every day, Monday through Friday, a new activity that you could use at home. There's a video, and there's at-home components that you can use with stuff around your kitchen cabinet, where you can do that every single day and learn and help to educate your child and or your family at home in that environment. And so we developed that digital portal, and it was a huge success. We saw thousands of people using that. But then we also saw that there were these pockets of our community that did not have access to the internet. And so we didn't want to leave those folks behind as well. And so we said, we're going to serve them too. And so we took that website and we developed an app around that as well. And it's not just any app, but it's delivering all that great digital content, but delivering that digital content offline. So that way folks can find a hotspot somewhere, download that material to their mobile device, to their cell phone, right? And they can access the material at home even when they don't have access to the internet. And
So you mentioned opening up again. Columbus City Schools just delayed reopening. Has that changed your thinking, or are you having further discussions about that?
Yeah, we're gonna reopen on November 20th. Obviously, we're gonna look at the science to help drive all of our decision making. But one of the things is we look at the field as a whole. The museum industry is across the United States. It's challenging right now. But one of the things that we do is we look at our peer institutions, we look at communities across museums across the nation and what they're doing, even including other museums in Ohio, like the Great Lakes Science Center, who are doing tremendous work right now, and as they're reopened up in Cleveland. So we're going to follow the science, but one of the things that we are going to continue to deliver on is the work that we're doing in the community, with a recognition that what happens in the four walls at COSI is not enough, because we have to do more out in the community. And so ignore that box to develop programs like one of the things we developed, thanks to the leadership of the City of Columbus and the Franklin County Commissioners and others, is developing a physical kit as an example. It's a science kit. We call it a learning lunchbox. And the reason we call it a learning lunchbox is we go out to the community and we partner with meal providers. like Children's Hunger Alliance, where folks are coming in who might be underserved in the community. They get their food for the week. Well, we're delivering their science content for the week as well through this kit, this physical kit. So we're feeding their hungry lives and we're feeding their hungry minds at the same time. So programs like that, Nick, yes, we're going to reopen, but we're not going to stop the community work that we're doing right now because we believe it's critical, we believe it's urgent, and we have to continue to deliver for the community in that way.
Great. So Claire, you were nodding your head when Stephen used the term forget the box. Why were you nodding?
Oh man, I feel like my entire life is forgetting the box. I'm dyslexic, I didn't graduate college, I dropped out to talk about menstruation for a living. Like, there's no box to be had. But I would never wish a pandemic, but I love the way that it's forcing us all to flex new muscles, like learning lunch boxes and diving in deeper into the communities, recognizing that a lot of folks don't have Wi-Fi, rethinking our brand and how the 16 million women in the United States living at or below the poverty line still don't have access to tampons and pads. They're still not covered by WIC or food stamps. How do we still help those individuals get products that are critical if they aren't going to their local library, because we support tons of libraries across the United States. If they aren't able to go to their free museum, we support hundreds of museums across the United States. And so I kind of love when nobody has a box. Then we all get to play in this giant world of possibility. And that's what if you're going to take a positive spin on all of this, I love that opportunity for us all to just open all of the doors and see what we can do.
And Casey, I imagine for you, for the industry that you're in, you do live in boxes, very tightly regulated boxes, right?
I've got binders and binders and binders of boxes.
You have an organized notebook.
I'm
it's
ready
really
here to
great
go.
over there.
It's funny to talk about that because we can get so head down in our box, in our binder, that we don't look up and we realize our purpose and we understand what we're really pivoting for. So there is some good, right? And to talk about our connection here, just a minute. So with our mission to connect, but we have a connection, we've never met. Claire and I met for the first time, Stephen, we just met. But our connection, Dr. Bertley sits on our board of directors for the Columbus Regional Airport Authority. That resource is available to our airports, a PhD in immunology. That's a partnership. He's on the radio 2 days ago with Ann Fisher answering questions that we're listening to in our community. That's the partnership that we get. Claire doesn't know this, but 5 years ago, you're talking about your story. We've never met. But I was one of those facilities that had dropped the coin in to get your product. And she changed that for us by bringing it to our attention. Your products weren't produced yet, you weren't there, but your leadership brought it forth and it allowed somebody else to take action. So thank you for that, because we're one of the first airports to do it, but we didn't do it on our own. We needed somebody else to help us see it. I mentioned Joe earlier. He helped our team see this, the boxes that we were living in, and helped us make the pivot. One of those pivots, it was Joe works with, and you're all probably familiar with the Columbus Partnership. The Columbus Partnership is a group of other industry folks outside of my box, right? It's a whole bunch of different groups, but there's sharing going on. And one of the items that they shared was a playbook, a safe work playbook. How do we operate in this new environment for entities who can't shut down? I can't close the doors. We need to stay in operation. We have fire department, we have police department, we have custodial that has to keep things clean. And this playbook from outside the industry over in automotive and maybe automotive technology, but it instantly hits our team and we recognize this is what our industry needs. So we created one. It didn't exist. We created the playbook. That playbook now has hit probably 300 commercial airports using something that's created here that starts at Columbus Partnership for purposes that they don't even intend. And so those connections, so while the pandemic is pushing us away and stopping connections, it's really the opposite. It's the partnerships that we have in this community that are going to help us get through it. That's what we're seeing, whether it's COSI, Columbus Partnership, and we have one more with Experience Columbus.
So I just want to echo that because I think you're spot on, and I think that's an incredible, what we've seen from the community during really, it's not just the pandemic, right? We're living in a time where 2020 you had this unprecedented global pandemic, but you also had this reawakening of societal inequities across our communities and across our states that candidly was seen across the globe. And one of the things that we were really proud to see for our Columbus community was that power of partnerships. I'll give you an example. We worked with a group of volunteers through what was called the Can't Stop Columbus movement, where we sat down and we had a conversation around potential pivots in the community, recognizing that education is that great equalizer, and so how do we work together to do that? And we developed what was called a Teach Back initiative, where families, moms and dads and teachers were wondering, I'm at home, is my child actually learning the content that they're working on, whether it be on the computer or whether it be through books and so on and so forth? And so what we developed was a Teach Back guide, where we could convey that both through the digital realm, but then also in the physical realm, different types of ways that these youth could teach back to their parents, to moms or dads. And so if they did an activity at home, they would take a picture of that, share it on social media, perhaps shoot a video, write a poem, a variety of different techniques. So I just want to echo this point you've made about the power of partnerships and seeing our community come together in a way where you've got this defining moment that we will never see again, likely in our lifetime. But the way we get through it, the way we pivot to these variety of different purposes is by working together and is through partnerships.
And just moving forward, so November 20th is the open date?
That's right.
And you're going to do that 3 days a week?
3 days, yep.
For a month?
That's
And then you're
right.
going to reassess?
That's right.
What kind of traffic do you think you're going to be able to?
So
'cause I know you're going to timestamp the attendance.
yeah,
and
that's right.
everything.
We've got a variety of robust kind of pivots that we put in place primarily around safety, including an HVAC system that is unprecedented in the community, in the country, around being able to cycle the air in a positive way, so that way we can kind of get rid of the germs and so on and so forth. But we're going to monitor that because we know across the industry, in the museum world, you see about an average of 30 to 40% foot traffic as a result of this. We'll see what happens with respect to the potential vaccine, but even if there is a vaccine, it's going to take time to disseminate that across the country. But we feel confident that we're going to continue to monitor that and look at science of that. But one of the things we've embraced is a recognition that we want to create a safe environment, whether that be through intense, rigorous cleaning protocols, new HVAC systems to clean the air, to put that in place to make sure that number one is safety for our guests and for their community.
And Claire, you're in the middle of this. You've got to be thinking, all right, at some point we are going to go back to some people being in buildings and my business plan going back to normal. What's the bridge from here to there?
I'll admit we're re-examining industries that we can support the most in. As I mentioned, just because there's a pandemic, periods don't stop, and business hasn't stopped. I mean, we're in the process with working with 2 massive rebuilds of arenas, and we're going to be in all of their bathrooms, which is exciting. So they're anticipating people still wanting to go to arenas. I still want to go to an arena, and I'll still need tampons. So we're just re-examining what industries have aligned incentives to reopen. Obviously, in 2019, our primary focus was universities and businesses. Enterprises, large organizations with a massive office footprint might not necessarily be the place where we can provide the most value. But I mean, just 3 weeks ago, the state of Virginia passed legislation requiring all schools to offer free tampons and pads in their bathrooms. They're anticipating going back. There's still a need for menstrual products. And so we're really just listening. And I am really, really thankful that in fourth grade, I was blind, and so my focus has always just been listening. I'm really auditory, and so I've just gotten to listen to a whole bunch of people and determine what we do based on the feedback that I'm getting in the industry and who is ready to reopen and how we can best support. So my job is to just listen. If anybody has things they want to tell me, I'm here to listen.
Okay. And Casey, speaking of the bridge from here to there, Port Columbus, John Glenn International has had projects underway, major projects underway. Rickenbacker, major investments underway. Bolton Field, I believe, just completed some major projects.
We did some pavement work at Bolton Field to keep that infrastructure up as well, yes.
So you are you're investing right now.
Yes.
What's as you look forward, what's the bridge from here to there?
Yeah, so the bridge is a runway. For us, and we're going to keep building runways, and we're going to still need to be able to connect our community to other communities. What's shifted for us is maybe a time frame, but our plans are still in place. We do believe that the protocols that our industry is taking, that community is taking, following science, letting science lead, that will lead us out of this. And when we talk about major infrastructure projects, those don't start on a dime and they don't stop overnight. So the CONRAC that you mentioned at John Glenn, we've continued on that CONRAC, the rental car facility, a consolidated rental car facility. That's in preparation for our future that we've talked about for a while of a new terminal at some point. We do operate out of a terminal that was originally built in 1959. And we've kept that running for all these years, but at some point we see that it will need replaced, and so we will continue to build for our future. That rental car facility will be open next summer on schedule. We've had other projects that continue. We're reconstructing the runways down at Rickenbacker as we speak. That'll open up next month. Rickenbacker continues. Rickenbacker was a major piece of our pivot during the pandemic as passenger traffic plummeted and went to near nothing. Supplies still needed to move throughout the country. I think most people recognize, but maybe not, when airlines stop flying, so do products. The bellies of those airplanes are full of cargo. And when half of the fleet gets parked, that cargo stops moving. And so there needs to be new and innovative ways to get it moving. We are fortunate to have Rickenbacker in our community, not just on a local or regional asset, but it's a national asset. FEMA used this for the distribution of protective equipment and moving ventilators and parts in the manufacturing process. We're going through Rickenbacker. Cargo actually has increased there for a short time as this has happened. Korean Air, we talk about pivoting, took a passenger aircraft and converted it for cargo.
777.
Yeah, and it's at Rickenbacker. We're the first airport in the world to host Korean Air's converted passenger aircraft for cargo activity. And now that's a recurring activity in our community because we had the capability to do it, and we said, yes, we'll be a partner with you in getting that started.
And same question about traffic. Where are you now, and what are you forecasting?
Our traffic today, we are about 35 to 40% of our 2019 levels. And we're forecasting, we expect that we'll have some uptake over the holiday period, continuing to increase for 21. We probably expect to be in the neighborhood of about 55%. For 2021. The aviation industry overall is expecting a longer term. We're the first, it felt like, the first impacted as the traffic was going away before the shutdown happened. And then some will say last to return. And so some estimates have it out to 2023, 2024 until we reach back to 2019 levels.
So we will move to questions from our audience in just a few minutes. We hope to have some live audience questions as well. And let me ask you first, I got to ask this. What is it like to have a boss and a CEO who happens to be an immunologist during this period?
It's awesome, and let me tell you why. Because it's you instead of kind of relying on looking at various different publications and so on and so forth, you have one in-house. It's an in-house expert, and that's why we look at on a daily basis, looking at science to drive that, to drive our decisions. But the one other thing I will say to that is one of the great things about Dr. Bertley, who you're referencing, is that a keen focus on, again, not just the building, but the community. So when we looked at this issue of, as an example here, the digital divide, there was an AECOM study that came out in July in our communities, focusing here in Central Ohio. And of that, it shared that the digital divide is really on three fronts. One is on the lack of equipment, the lack of broadband is the second pillar, and the third one was lack of digital literacy. And so one of the things Dr. Bertley challenged us on as a team was looking at not only, how do we deliver in the community by being an expert in science, being able to increase science literacy in our community, but then also how do we address these challenging problems we have in our community around the digital divide. And so hence being able to provide new programs like our Cosi on Wheels Curbside, where we show up to a community location in the underserved community, we turn the whole area into a Wi-Fi hotspot. Being able to deliver those type of things are what makes it so awesome, is that not looking at it through the lens of science, but looking at it through the lens of science as a museum, but then also as a community partner.
So we have some questions from the audience and from our live stream audience, correct?
Yes, we do. Timothy Allen from the Columbus Regional Airport Authority wants to ask, with what appears to be success over the last several months, how will you, as the COO, help the Columbus Regional Airport Authority maintain or increase altitude operationally in the next 2 to 3 years as the airline industry attempts to recover from the pandemic?
Thank you, and thanks, Tim, for sending that in. Tim handles our custodial services for the Airport Authority. Tim is responsible for ensuring all of our health and safety through that facility. So shout out to him and his team. He led us through what's called the Global Biorisk Advisory Council. It's something that Brian Ross and Experience Columbus brought to us. It's a third-party entity that comes in and validates your cleaning practices for biorisks, and Tim led that effort for us. But to answer his question, I alluded to our team and our teams, and what gets us over the next couple years, what continues through, is relying on our team. We have amazing people here in Columbus, and I'm pleased to work with a lot of them in our facilities. When I talk about pandemic planning, police, fire, communications, emergency preparedness, we deal with this stuff all the time. We plan for it, we react to it, and our teams have been really good, excellent on response. But there's unsung heroes all over the place on our team, the custodial groups across, not just in airports, but across the country, who are keeping essential infrastructure operating for us. The essential staff that are working here today so that we can still connect, from facilities teams, our airfield team that's keeping runways open, our technology team who overnight, I think literally it took 3 days for us to send 30% of our staff to work from home in an industry that works in a box and says, no, we're at an airport, we need to be at an airport. 30% of us are home. And then an HR group. Have you ever had to rely on an HR group so much in the past? From contact tracing and the issues that come up with all the home issues and what's happening in our schools. It's happening all over the place. So our future as a COO, it just comes back to recognizing our team, keeping our team together, recognizing we're there for them as well. We've worked very hard not to have the involuntary layoffs, or the reductions. That's a result of our team working very hard on at every turn, and I know people are doing it all over the country. So that's my response. It's relying back on our team and making sure they have the resources to keep us all safe and healthy.
Hello, Renee Delane from Women Who Dare, and I have a more personal question to ask each of you. What are you doing, irrespective of your businesses and all the stress that you are under, to provide solutions for literally thousands of people who are employed with you and coworkers. What are you doing in your personal space, in your quarantine time, to escape this for a little bit and connect with yourself? What do you do?
I practice quarantine. No, it's,
This time has been a massive change for me. 90% of my job was flying all around the country. I was talking to Casey, I'm like, I spent a lot of time in the airport every single week. And so to have the opportunity to spend more time with myself, I found new hobbies. So I started playing tennis. I go to Flex and Flow for their Afro pop dance every Monday. I started doing pastels at the Columbus Park of Roses. And I have a fish that I take care of and nurture. And that's what I do.
On the personal side, it's really my family. I'm blessed to have my wife and I. We've got two little ones, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. Keeps us on our toes, and we've got a golden retriever at home, and so it's really looking at them as that moment to kind of escape it all and look at it through their lens. They don't know that. My 2-year-old has no idea what a pandemic is. They just know that people are wearing masks, right? So being able to provide them experiences outdoors and in the community and at various different locations and so on and so forth. And so I distinctively remember when all this kind of started back in the spring, we would just do little things like take walks in the community. And one of the things that our neighborhood would do, which I thought was really fun, is we would paint rocks. And you'd have painted rocks, and as you go on walks, there'd be all kinds of different designed rocks that you would see from our neighbors and from our community. So I really use that as a moment to kind of reflect and look at them as kind of the future, and knowing that if I can make them have fun, then that's a good moment for me.
mine is that family as well. It's hard to break the cycle. The airport's running right now, right? It's constant. And so the phone rings regularly, and being available, it's difficult to find a balance sometimes. So a couple things that we've done intentionally, because I think if I'm not intentional about it, you just lose the opportunity. So we did get a dog. We have a COVID dog. So exploring, it took me 20 years to get a dog in our house, and I was able to get the dog. And then getting out. So I love the fall. So we were blessed to live in a great community where you can get out and just disconnect from things for a while, be back with nature, and tune other things out.
I would just add to that, too. I think it's about being purposeful about understanding that you are under constant stress, and that regardless of whether you're taking a break or spending time with your dog or your family, the wheels are always turning in the background.
Yeah,
so just being cognizant of that and giving yourself a break, I think.
For sure.
Thank you.
Dr. Bill Lafayette asks, what do you foresee the effects of the last 9 months on how you do your business once the pandemic is behind us, and how might our community change? In other words, what are pivots that you've done that will become permanent?
Yeah, so one of the things that I alluded to earlier is this notion that COSI is a community partner, and so we're going to maintain that. And what's great about the initiatives that we have worked together with our incredible team have been working tirelessly to not only make this a short-term endeavor, but a long-term endeavor. Meaning that even after this pandemic is over, delivering these distance learning, helping to bridge the digital divide, that's here to stay. So the Learning Lunchbox program, for example, communities from all over, even beyond Central Ohio, Cleveland, Dayton, even Steubenville today, requesting to be a partner around supporting distance learning. So we will have the amazing resources that you see in the fun. We cosify it, right? We have to make it fun inside the building with those fantastic exhibits that everyone loves. But in addition to that, these initiatives like the Learning Lunchbox program, the COSI on Wheels Curbside, the COSI Connects digital resources that are available, we're going to keep those going. We're going to keep those going for the foreseeable future.
For us, process. I started my company initially working with StoryForge with Barry Chandler and Haley Boeing, and they always challenged me my why and what's my real personal story. And for me, it's always just ensuring everybody has access to basic quality necessities. That was just tampons and pads. Now it's access to masks, surface cleaning wipes that actually get the job done. It's sanitizer that doesn't just smell like tequila. It's the quality necessities and consistently producing that. And we will never rebuild our box. I think we've now broken that box and continuing that collaboration and creating some fun new products. I'm really excited for you to see something that we have up our sleeve. That's my most exciting innovation that I've ever made, ever in my entire life, that's coming in 3 months. Teaser!
At the Airport Authority, we have some very practical, some pragmatic processes that we've changed, maybe tweaking the way we train our staff with regard to a cleaning process or items. Those continue forever. Those are kind of an updating and making sure we stay up with the latest and greatest means and method. But I think probably one of the biggest items that we take away, along with the partnership concept and realizing the power that these bring to move us all forward, is our realization as a team that we can act. We can do something right now. So while everything around us is asking questions and we're all waiting on, well, what's this policy going to be, and what's the FAA going to do, what's the TSA going to do, what's the president going to do, what's the governor going to do, we have the capability, the resources to control our space. That's all we can control, right? Our space. And so do it, and do it today. There's no reason to wait. We understand, we follow the science, and be confident in taking those actions, because we're all in this together, and if we're going down a wrong path, it'll get corrected. There's plenty of people looking out for us and watching on things, but take action today.
I'm Carol Looper, and my question is, with all we're hearing about COVID fatigue and not knowing if and when the end of this road is coming, how do you keep your employees' morale up? All three of you sound so up and positive. That can't be constant for your employees, or is it?
We have 350, 400 Airport Authority employees, and you're absolutely right. So I'd probably describe it as this mini roller coaster, the ups and downs. So how do we deal with it? We give grace. I mean, at this time, there's lots of things happening with people's lives, and that's coming into the work environment, and we try to recognize that. So we do meet with our team often. We can't get together as groups, so we don't have those interactions where we have that people can vent, or you can kind of understand where somebody is at and whether I can push them right now or not. We've lost some of that interaction, so we have to build in just a greater degree of tolerance, which quite honestly our society could use anyway, right? So improving our ability to be tolerant with each other and giving them grace and recognizing we're all on this roller coaster. And we may seem up now. Well, I won't speak for the two of you, but it's difficult. You know, we actively talk about fatigue. We are looking out for each other and saying, it's time. You haven't been out of you haven't taken the headset off. You haven't put the phone away, and you need to take take the days off. And so we try to build that in for our team. And just be forgiving about it right now, right? We need that. It is a roller coaster, and it's ups and downs. Being there for each other, bottom line.
Yeah, it is about being there for each other. One of the things I'd add is that, you know, we embrace a number of different things. One is transparency, flexibility, encouraging self-care, and the notion that we're all in this together. And that you're not alone. We embrace this philosophy of one team, strong and mighty, and a recognition that it's not just a COSI issue. It's not just an airport issue. You know, it's not just, you know, all of us in here in this room. We each have our own challenges and struggles right now as a result of this pandemic, and recognizing that and facing it up front and saying that we're all in this together. And together, we're going to get through it, and we're going to be even stronger when we get through that.
My small note is I agree with all of that, but the real question is, have we ever known anything for certain? It's like, this is all just kind of like a really rapid replay of a theme throughout our entire lives. I mean, I'm 23. I don't even know what I'm eating for dinner, right? Like, have we ever known anything for certain? And I think that it's just a great question to ask our team and also reassure ourselves.
Kathy Fox asks, what steps need to be taken for more people to take the pandemic seriously, reduce spread of coronavirus, and save lives? What specific things are your organizations doing to help?
Well, one of the things that we're a champion of, and again, I'm going to applaud Dr. Bertley here, is being an advocate for science and science literacy, and just wearing it on our sleeves and just letting the public know that science is going to get us through this, and we have to be a champion of science, especially now. And if not now, when, right? And so I would encourage folks to talk about the importance of science, increase science literacy in our community, but then also thank our leaders. Thank our leaders who are stepping up, Mayor Andy Ginther, the Franklin County Commissioners, our Governor DeWine, who are stepping up and echoing these messages that we have to do right now. Even our U.S. Senators, Senator Brown and Senator Portman, tell them to continue the message about the importance of science and applaud them for that work and recognize that we're all in it together, and science is going to help get us out of this.
I'm really thankful that in February we retooled all of our production to be able to solve for some of these clear problems. So we manufacture quality FDA-approved 3-ply masks, and we have for the past 6 to 7 months. So for us, it's now just education on what is a quality mask, what isn't a quality mask. You've probably heard a lot about the fraud that's going on in the industry, how the nose clips aren't even made with metal anymore, how the earpieces are falling off, how they're not made with melt-blown fiber. Those are all problems that we're now facing in that medical grade industry. And so our role now, originally it was just manufacturing, and we support the entire state of Michigan, Columbus, Ohio, where you at, I don't know, but we support all of Michigan with their masks and PPE needs. And now our role is to also educate how to determine if you are a nurse or in a place where there is direct interaction with COVID patients, how do you make sure you're using the most quality product, how to identify the product, and also how to make sure that you're advocating for the right product. So that's how our role has changed in the market as well.
And I'll hit the big three, right? Wear the mask, socially distance, sanitize, right? So it's not rocket science. It's challenging, but it is science.
Yes.
It is science. But we've been given a pathway out of this. It's not the one we would all choose. It's not the one that we would prefer. We would all rather not have masks. But this is a short term. This is an interim step, right? We don't know how long this is going to be. But we do have things that we know work. I believe in this stuff, and I believe in it because of science, but also because of what I'm seeing in our group. We have hundreds of employees reporting to work each day. All of the cases that we have, and we haven't had a lot, are coming from outside personal interactions. We're not having employee-to-employee spread. We believe that is attributed to the actions that we're taking. We're more cognizant of it in our workplace. We do our check-in in the morning. We ensure people have masks. We socially distance in every opportunity. We're not doing certain activities anymore. We're going to keep doing that, and we all need to keep doing that, with or without a vaccine. There's a lot of road ahead of us. This is a marathon. The challenge is we just don't know if we are on mile 6 or 13 or 20 yet, and there's a milepost ahead. We just have to keep going, step by step, and wear the mask, step back, sanitize. Here it is. I bring my own.
Okay, on that note, we'll end today's forum. I hope you found it enlightening and entertaining. I know I certainly did. We have 2 forums next week. On Wednesday, October 28th, we will look at our food distribution system, which is also pivoting. We'll have another outstanding panel of experts for that one. Then on Friday, we're pleased to offer CMC's 12th Congressional District Conversation. This one will be live stream only, and it will be moderated by Mike Thompson of WOSU Public Media. I want to thank our live stream partners, PNC and the Columbus Dispatch, and to our online virtual seat patrons, thank you all. And I want to extend a special thanks to our speakers, Stephen White, Claire Coder, Casey Denny, and last but not least, Nick Fortini. We hope to see you again soon, but until then, stay well and be safe.